Welcome to the podcast. We do recover with Jared Miller, your host.
And I'm Dr. Terry Sellers, your co-host.
This is a podcast about recovery from addiction.
We want to talk about what successful recovery can look like.
Brought to you by Steps Recovery Center and the St. George Hilton Garden Inn.
Welcome to episode 28 of We Do Recover. I'm your host, Jared Miller. Today, I'm super excited. I'm joined in the Recovery Lounge by your co-host and our medical expert, Dr. Terry Sellers.
Woo! Happy to be here.
We also have in the studio today the man that makes this thing possible when he's not running a side hustle on top of a side hustle, Sean Denneman.
I'm just over here in the corner.
And finally, to our featured guest, super excited to get this guy's story. He's an amazing man, well-known in the industry, Christian Smith.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah.
Thank you for coming on. We are grateful. This podcast is recorded in sunny St. George, Utah. Episode 28, Part 1 is brought to you by none other than Steps Recovery Centers, where addiction ends and healing begins. If your loved one needs help, reach out and give them a call. 801-800-8142. You know, I really do love Steps. Steps they're a good organ. They treat me good. I love them.
Yeah, good.
Yeah, good people.
I played golf yesterday with one of the owners. So, well, I didn't play with him, but we were in the same tournament.
Which one? Give us the dirt.
Huh? I can't remember his name.
Oh, okay.
I'm kidding.
You're okay.
I'm kidding.
Well, sweet. What's new and good with you, Sellers?
Ty Hansen, by the way. What's new and good? Well, let's do what's new and good with you. I look over.
Yeah.
You're wearing this shirt.
Yeah.
If you're watching the podcast, you can see that Jared is wearing a Sober Society shirt, which is a cool looking sweatshirt. He's got a hoodie on. What's that about?
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. So, we've had people on that have had sobriety apparel, and I kind of came up with the concept. I wanted to make something that was fundraising to help people. This will be the second time that I've done something to help raise money for people in sober living, and there's always a why behind it, right? So when I got my act together and was putting my life back together, I was dirt poor. I mean, imagine making, 10, 12 bucks an hour, paying child support on top of it. I didn't have a lot of money. Like, I didn't have the money to move into sober living. So I had to move in at the age of in my late 20s, mid to late 20s, back in with my mom. And that is super hard when you're trying to gain some self-esteem and some self-worth to move back in with your parents. And so what do you do if there's something that you want to, change? You try to make a difference. So Sober Society is about raising some money, half of 50% of the profits. So that's cost, right? Minus sales.
You don't have to do all the accounting.
Okay, all right.
Good.
This isn't an accounting podcast?
Yeah.
Goes to help raise money. We're going to donate to get some people, help them with their first month, moving into some sober living.
Be honest. If you shine a black light on that shirt, does it say Jared Miller is awesome? Underneath all
I don't
that?
know. You'll have to buy one to find out,
Okay,
Sellers.
all right. Well.
See what I did there, Christian? Do you see what I did there?
How does somebody buy one?
So you go to this podcast Facebook page.
Okay.
You click on View Shop. Right there, we got all three products. We're also working on a hat.
Sweet.
You can just order it right there, or if you're a local in St. George and you want to save $5 on shipping, just shoot me a direct message. My Venmo is Jared-Miller-223. We'll make it happen.
Jared will bring it right to you.
Yeah.
Maybe.
I have been doing some hand deliveries
Yeah,
lately.
that's
And
all
thank
right.
you to the people that sight unseen they ordered.
Yeah, sure.
Man, we got some amazing people out there.
Sure.
Love them.
Noticed Amanda ordered the other day. Shout out to Amanda.
Yeah. Amanda Carrillo,
Yeah.
she's awesome.
Who else ordered? Anybody we need to?
We got Corey.
I saw Corey wearing his. That's awesome. Yeah.
Danielle, my friend Danielle.
Corey looks good in it.
Yeah. Stacy.
Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah, there's quite a few people.
All right. Well, I like it.
What's new and good with you? Thank you, by the way. I appreciate the
Sure.
love.
So I'm down here for a golf tournament. It's a group called Good Time Golf, mostly out of Salt Lake City, I believe. And Good Time Golf is a group of sober golfers. And I don't know, what did we have out there yesterday, Christian? How many players you think? 60?
At least 60.
Yeah, 60 people. Every one of them sober, to my knowledge, and playing golf. And it was a ton of fun. It was cold yesterday, but it was great.
Yeah, I love that kind of stuff. I love the volleyball leagues and the baseball. And there's so much cool recreation down here in southern Utah. I love St. George.
Yeah, it's fun. It's a little cold on the golf course, but
yeah. A little. I mean, you're from Provo. It should have felt good.
Well, I'm from Florida.
Oh,
I
okay.
just keep
All right.
I keep pretending I'm from Florida. I call that home.
Well, Christian Smith, let's get you in the mix, man. What's new and good with you?
Yeah, you got anything new and good going on right now?
No, I just I hope you don't suck today on the golf course.
I was terrible yesterday.
Oh, are you his partner?
Oh, he drug
we
he drugged me around the golf course. He was awesome, and I was terrible. We won, but no help from me, frankly. I was not good.
Christian, is your back feeling okay today?
It's actually sore, but
It's a little sore. He's
yeah.
getting a little heavy. You're having to carry him.
That's what 60 years of living will do.
And carrying a big fat guy around the course.
Oh, too funny, guys.
Sean, anything good, new and good in your world over there?
No, everything's great.
All right.
Thanks for asking.
Beautiful.
Cool
All
story,
right.
Sean.
Yeah.
Yeah, great.
Way to add to the podcast. Okay, we should get going, huh?
Yeah, let's
get going. So Christian Smith. Those of you that don't know Christian Smith, you're about to get to know him, and it'll be a treat. I've known Christian for quite a while now, and we're about to get to know him. So tell us just briefly about Christian Smith right now. Like, I don't need to know, but just who's Christian Smith?
I'm in the next week. I'll celebrate 39 years of marriage to the same woman,
Wow.
and we'll talk a little bit more about her later. Just she's pretty sick for us to celebrate 39 years of marriage.
She must be nuts.
Kelly, and we have 4 kids. All 4 are married and live close to us up in the Salt Lake, Bountiful area, and 6 grandkids.
You're beating me. I got 5 grandkids.
Yeah.
You're running.
It's the coolest thing in the world.
Yeah, it is.
Grandkids.
What's your kids' names?
Adam,
Okay.
Chad.
Is Adam the oldest?
Adam's
We're
the
going
oldest.
in order.
In order. Adam, Chad. We call her Crazy Sarah.
Sarah.
She's our third.
Yeah.
We call her Crazy because she's
Crazy.
she is a little crazy. She's in school to be a licensed clinical social worker. She thinks she wants to help out in this industry. She's been working in it for a bit. She's working for Turning Point.
Well,
And also doing an internship for Recovery Ways. No, excuse me, New Roads. I'm giving everybody names here.
yeah.
And then our baby is Abby.
All right.
Very nice.
I like it.
You're a blessed guy.
Oh,
you are a
I am.
blessed man.
I'm a blessed man.
He actually is a blessed man, and he knows it. So let's get moving. Tell us about Christian Smith as a kid.
Okay, I've told this, my story, if you will. I've told it a lot, and
Sure.
here we go again. So some of you might be listening going, I heard this 1,000 times.
Well, it doesn't change. I'm
Yeah,
sorry, but
yeah.
this is the same story.
But
If
not on We Do Recover.
Yeah,
we
no.
gotta get it. We
Yeah.
gotta get you in the
yeah,
records.
we're gonna find something weird about your story that's new. So
I remember a couple of years ago, I was asked to go share this experience with some people in Arizona. And I had my wife with me and my oldest son, Adam, and his wife, Natalie. And I thought, well, I'm telling the same story every time. I thought I'll just spice it up a little bit.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, okay, it didn't go as great as I had hoped, but it felt okay. And when we're done, Adam pulls me aside and says, Dad, you know, you have a great story. You don't have to mix it up. Which to me said, that was terrible, son. Dad, that was terrible. So, no, I born in 1960, so I'm an old fart. And the 4th child of 8 in an active LDS family. We went to church every week, and Mom and Dad had callings in that organization the whole time I was growing up, including bishop, stake president, Relief Society president, and mission president.
Your mom was the bishop?
She was.
Wow.
It's a different LDS church.
Yeah, sure.
They're trend breakers.
A little more progressive, sure.
So, the growing up was pretty easy. We were middle class socioeconomically, didn't have a lot, didn't go without much. I remember one of the challenges with 8 children, 7 siblings. You know, we didn't always get along, and being in the middle, I sometimes found myself lost. And I learned quickly that I was blessed with, and there'll be some people listening to this and just laugh, but bite me. I was blessed with the ability to play pretty good sport, and basketball was my sport, and so I could flex my muscle with my older brothers on the basketball court, and I hope they're listening, both of them. I took them down bad. They
Oh,
fell
sure.
for fakes like nobody's business. Next thing you know, there's bloody noses. And
Yeah. Listen, we're gonna have them on next week, and they're gonna tell the real story.
They get to tell their side of
Yeah,
this
it's
basketball feud.
It's not gonna be the same story.
yeah. So didn't have any substance abuse in the family. I listened to your podcast a couple weeks ago, and I know you talked about the predisposed genetic component of addiction. I did have that going on. My grandparents on my mom's side and her siblings, brothers, struggle with alcoholism. But in our family, we weren't around that at all. LDS culture tends to frown upon bishops smoking and drinking.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah.
So the way we communicated in the family was, this will come up a little bit later too, we were pretty passive. We did speak sarcasm, so that would, you clinicians and medical people would understand that's passive aggressive, and we still speak that language today, and it works for us. But
That's my first language.
yeah, sarcasm. is really great. So
I'm not fluent in that language at all.
See,
Right.
there's an example. Everybody of great sarcasm right there. Didn't struggle with substance abuse. I did sample clear alcohol, which was probably vodka, as a 12, 13-year-old, and about the same time smoked a little bit of a cigarette. Turns out it was probably really the butt end of a cigarette, because I would learn years later I didn't get that little, holy cow, spin, if you will. And other than that, no substance abuse. I did have a disease, and I'm pretty sure you can confirm this as a medical expert.
I bet this is going to be funny.
No, I think it was a serious disease growing up. I think it's called horniness.
Okay, I'm not a medical expert. You're going to have to explain this to me.
You want to elaborate on that? I was horny. That was
You were a
that was-
teenage boy. That's weird.
So I always had a girlfriend, and I was pushing the envelope. If she'd let me get to first base, then second base was a given. And if I can get a double, well, why? And I was
love
always
this guy.
always pushing
Stretch
the
it
envelope.
out to third, baby. That right fielder doesn't have a good arm. You can make it. Go.
All the moms listening to this podcast are dying right now. I love it. I love this guy.
So.
Good point.
In high school, I played basketball. The first 2 years, I played freshman and then sophomore, junior at Cottonwood High School. A new coach came in between my junior, senior year and pulled me and a couple other guys in and said, hey, you're going to make the team next year, but I'm changing things. And by the way, Cottonwood sucked anyways. We'd never won any games hardly. And he said, you're going to make the team, but you're not going to play. And I'm going, well, I'm not.
Why am I making the team?
Yeah.
Why am I going to go practice?
Yeah, I'm not going to go to wind sprints and ladders and all that other crap to sit on the bench. And so
Exactly what happened my senior year. Like all the seniors said, he was building for the future.
So somebody suggested, hey, well, why don't you try out for cheerleader?
Huh.
And I thought, well, that's, he had 4 guys and 4 gals. And so we tried out, and all 4 of us made it. I didn't have any gymnastics.
You didn't have very good friends, did you? I didn't have a single friend that ever said, hey, why don't you try out for cheerleader?
It was a little different then, I hope.
Listen, you look at it from a good perspective. 4 guys, 4 girls.
It was a blast.
Okay.
It was a blast. It was during then that I didn't know at the time, but I probably doing some of those
Splits.
Yeah, I didn't do that, but lifting and whatnot, and I did get pretty proficient on the mini tramp there, and but I probably broke my back. I didn't really know it, but that would come into play some years later. So I finished that, had a great experience, and what's the right thing for somebody to do that graduates high school and is turning 19? I did leave out. I repeated kindergarten. Which back in that day, I thought I flunked kindergarten. Look at Sellers. That's exactly how I felt. And because I'm
All of
asking,
us can be doctors, Sellers.
Yeah.
Okay, kindergarten can be tough sometimes.
and I'm asking myself that same thing. Like, who the heck?
Kindergarten was naps and recess for me.
How do you flunk kindergarten, man? How do you do that? For the nap reason or
Are
whatever?
you not a very good napper or what?
I don't know. But it was. I didn't have any trauma growing up. Dad spanked me on a few occasions, probably less than 6, and I do know that.
Less than 6. That was a good week for me.
I remember thinking, when he spanked me, it was, he must not love me. So if I had some trauma, that bugged me a little bit. And so I graduated high school. Now I'm a year older than everybody else. Immediately, what does an LDS guy do?
Go on the mission.
Go on a mission.
Yeah.
And I went to Johannesburg, South Africa in 1979 and loved it. It was just probably funner than a mission is supposed to be. And
Still working on the apartheid thing there in 79, weren't they?
Yep, they were. And that was one of the downsides of my learning to adult, because I didn't do any adulting on my mission. I didn't do any laundry. I never cooked a meal. I never made a bed, didn't clean. We had people that would do that.
Yeah.
And so that didn't help me learn how to adult a little bit. I'm writing.
Yeah, but don't down it too much. You got up every morning at 6 and went out and did your duty and that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
But
during that time, I'm writing a couple of gals. I'm still horny.
A couple.
And, a couple.
Neither one knew about the other.
No,
I
it turns out
guarantee
those of you listen that might go down this road, don't be very careful if you're writing multiple women, because
in the same town.
they could have friends who are mutual friends. And so I get a letter from one gal, you already know who she is, Kelly, who says, "Hey, if you're going to write Corinne, don't write me."
Oh,
and I
the gig is up.
I panicked, like, okay, I'll stop. And anyway, I get home from the mission. Still have that disease. 7 days after I'm home, I'm engaged to be married.
Oh my
7 days.
7 days.
Oh my God.
The remedy for a horny return missionary is marriage in my world.
Wow, you were horny. Holy mackerel.
So,
7 days is what you lasted.
yeah, it's just.
I still
insane.
hadn't gone to the mall 7 days after my mission. Worried about leaving the house in jeans.
So we get married 3 or 4 months, whatever it was, 5 months later, and that's when life started to take a different twist. Kelly, I come from this family where we didn't raise our voice. The only time it was okay to raise your voice and be real assertive or even aggressive was if you're playing sport. Then I get kicked out of a game, and Dad's going, "That's my boy," but not in the house. Kelly, on the other hand, came from a family where they practiced assertive communication. They called you out. Didn't matter where you were, who was around. If somebody did something silly, it was, to me, it was as if somebody was yelling at me. And on the basketball court, I don't care who you are. Let's go. You be 6'8", let's go.
Yeah.
But in this one-on-one communication deal, I just, something happened inside me, and I wanted to crawl under a table. So 3 years after we're married, I'm in a motorcycle accident, and most of you listening know the rest of this story. There I was sent home from St. Mark's Hospital with
A bottle of Percocet.
It was Percodan back in the day.
Yeah.
And I remember the label said take 1 or 2 as needed for pain, and it worked.
I needed them every 4 minutes.
Yeah, I'd heard you, Doc, years ago say something that is really appropriate here. I remember if I could only, the feeling I got taking these pain pills was, if I could only feel like this forever, everything would be okay. And so I learned quickly that if I took 1 or 2, that physical pain went away, broken leg, road rash. But if I took 3 or 4, Kelly could come at me all she wanted, and it didn't hurt me anymore.
It's amazing what it does for that emotional pain too, right?
Yeah.
Kind of the numbing effect.
Yeah, that's exactly what it was. So I healed from that motorcycle accident, stopped taking pills. You can't play Mormon basketball without finding yourself in the emergency room. Everybody's trying out for the NBA, man.
It's because everybody on the ward basketball team thinks they're Danny Ainge.
Yeah, and they got NBA scouts sitting on the stage in that cultural hall there. Yeah,
Sure, Sister Bennett is an NBA scout. Yeah, right.
So Kelly worked in the ER and still does work in the hospital system in Salt Lake. And every time I'd go in there, they were really kind to me. They treated me like family. Okay, this is a broken ankle or a broken arm or a sprained ankle. Well, back in that day, they were pretty kind medically to liberal,
pretty loose.
Yeah, for opiate prescriptions.
Yep.
And I remember mispronouncing the drug that I was seeking.
Oh, yeah. I love it when the patients come in and can't pronounce the single drug they're looking for. I don't know. Is it called? It's like Perk. Yeah.
Mine was Laura Tab.
Yeah.
It's not pronounced Laura Tab. And then they would even go so far as to say, "Well, how much do you take?" I didn't want them to give me a 5, right? Because that wouldn't get me where. And 10 might have been, that might have given the game. So it was 75, I think. 7.5. Yeah, that's it. That's definitely
that's
it.
the one.
And so I started going down this road, and next thing you know, I'm into it 8 years. Probably within that first year, I'm gone from taking those opiates sporadically to within that first year, I'm using 24/7. I did not like withdrawals. This is before Suboxone came out. I didn't like the withdrawal feeling at all. And so I'm really taking, within that first year, probably not to get sick.
That's unique because I think everybody else loves the withdrawals.
Yeah.
I have a lot of patients who take it just so that they can go into withdrawals.
Yeah. I'd purposely get thrown in jail just so that I could withdraw. Love that experience.
Yeah, that's the thing. I mean, it's weird. For those of you who might be listening who have never been addicted, that's universal. Like withdrawals scare people to death. That is the reason people keep using.
Like imagine the flu or the worst physical element that you've had on steroids, basically, right?
Yeah.
I mean, the cold, anyway, yeah, it's a terrible thing, and it's enough to scare anybody into doing whatever they got to do to be physically dependent.
Yeah, I remember using that same analogy as I've worked in this business for the last 11 years. For a normie or a family support, take the worst flu you ever had and times it by 10, and you might be in the ballpark. It's just unexplainable.
Well, and heaven forbid we go to somebody and talk to them about the things that are making us use, because that would be totally unmanly to do, right? And we all got to be tough.
And in the culture that I was raised, to that same point, just strap your boots on, pull the boots up, and go. And boys don't cry.
Yep.
You just man up.
Sounds like a song by The Cure.
Yeah.
Never mind. It is a song by The Cure.
So I'm working at this time in the medical device arena. I'm representing companies that manufacture mechanical heart valves and cardiovascular grafts. I'm financially, we're making a lot of money. I'm traveling a lot, and now I'm introduced to another component to help self-medicate what's going on, and that's the form of alcohol.
Traveling.
Yeah.
You say traveling, you know it's alcohol.
Yeah, it's alcohol. The very first time I drank, I remember I'm at a training center in Kansas City, Missouri. We meet everybody, go to dinner that night. There's a group that's training, and they find out I'm from Utah. I say, "Are you Mormon?" And I remember saying, "Yeah," but quickly said, "I'm not a good one," which was really a lie. That was my value system, and I was trying to be active. But I didn't want people not to like me. That was another problem I had. I couldn't like me if you all didn't like me.
Oh, okay.
So I didn't want them to judge me. So
you wanted to fit in.
Yeah. So I remember after the dinner, they go over to the piano bar in the hotel that we're staying, and I followed them, and they said, "Why don't you drink one of these?" And I said, "Sure, I'll drink whatever." And they ordered me some Bartles and James wine cooler, and I remember drinking that. You got to be my age to remember that one.
I remember Bartles and James.
But it tasted like soda pop. Tastes like Sprite. I'm going, this is great. They kept buying it, kept drinking, and the next thing I remember is waking up in the hallway of the hotel, a few doors down from the room I was supposed to be in. That was my first experience drinking. I drank like an alcoholic the very first time.
Blacked out.
Blacked out.
Wow.
Yeah, total blacked out.
This home run hitter.
Listen, I'm laughing. I should shut up because this is the beginning of tragedy, but it's just the story's funny.
Yeah. That night, there's a side story.
The guy passes out on Bartles and James.
And you can imagine.
That's a Mormon boy.
Yeah, and the reason I came to was the stomach was saying, "Yeah, this doesn't feel good. We're going to come up now." And so I barely made it into my room, not to the bathroom, but into the room when it just, I was sick for 3 days, but didn't stop me from drinking.
Yeah.
Going forward. That night, there's a fun side story, and I'll be quick on this.
We got about 1 minute left
In the first
in
part.
this segment.
Okay, real quick.
We got
The piano player was a gal named Tish, and I'm drunk. I don't remember most of this.
This is going to go sideways.
But we're flirting, and I do remember walking her out to her car when the bar was shut down. That was my last memory. I come home from that trip, and then a week later I walk into the house from work, and my wife's sitting there at the kitchen table, with an envelope on the table, and her feet are crossed, and her leg is just as.
Oh yeah.
And her arms are folded, and
This
this
isn't
is the sign that this ain't good. And she says to me, "Do you have something you want to tell me?" Of course, I think, "No, I don't think so."
You mean you didn't want to go, I love you?
And so she pushes the envelope across the table to me, and I open it up, and there is a black and white picture of a scantily clad woman with the handwritten caption, "Thanks for the great night, Tish." And that is just the beginning of where
Whoa.
things get bad.
We're going to get the rest of that story in part 2. Thank you so much. We'll see you after this 30-second break from our sponsor.
You are listening to We Do Recover with Jared Miller and co-hosted by Dr. Terry Sellers. We'll be right back after this short break with more of We Do Recover with Jared Miller, sponsored by Steps Recovery Center and the Hilton Garden Inn.
I'm Desmond Lomax, one of the clinical executives here at Steps Recovery, and once you become in the Steps family, you're just a part of the Steps family. A lot of us have overcome substances, overcome addiction, and now we're able to help other people. Second of all, we're also going to help you in a way where you can afford to be helped. Third of all, we're going to give you the same quality that many organizations are charging 2 to 3 times, and it's more about you than it is about our organization.
We welcome you back to We Do Recover with Jared Miller, co-hosted by Dr. Terry Sellers.
Brought to you by Steps Recovery Center and the St. George Hilton Garden Inn.
And now with part 2 of our podcast, Jared Miller and Dr. Terry Sellers.
All right, part 2 of episode 28, We Do Recover. We got Christian Smith on here talking about the depths of the addiction that he took him to, and he finished with a black and white photo of him standing next to a scantily dressed female.
Piano
player. Before we get back to that, though, we got to do a sponsorship mention. So episode 28, part 2 is brought to you by the Hilton Garden Inn. It's always sunny and bright at the Hilton Garden Inn in St. George, Utah. If you or loved ones traveling through southern Utah, give them a Google search. Just type in Hilton Garden Inn, St. George, Utah. They have amazing amenities. I promise you won't be disappointed. It really is amazing there. I love their staff, love their people. Yeah. Look, I don't bring sponsors on. I'm pretty picky. Like, I got to have a genuine connection with somebody to do a sponsorship, because we've been offered other sponsorships, and I love these guys. I really do.
Yeah.
Proud of it.
They're good to me. It's the Parade of Homes in St. George this weekend, apparently. So they were really full this weekend. So Christian and I got, that's a funny story, but I'm not going to tell it. But we were we were going to be in a house with a bunch of other guys, and Christian was going to sleep in a room on a bunk bed with like 2 other guys in the room. And when you get to my age, almost everybody snores. And so it's not that Christian wouldn't have slept. It's that he would have woke the rest of the room up maybe.
You would have been part of that night rock concert.
That just feels uncomfortable when you start kicking people out of your room. I've done it myself. Yeah. I've woken up to my wife sleeping in the bathtub before in a hotel room. It's pretty nice.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So, okay, well, let's get back to it because we got a lot of stuff to do.
And I'm loving it.
Yeah. So I got to know this. Like, how did this picture get in the hands of Kelly?
That's the crazy thing. When I don't remember ever giving her my address.
Do you remember taking the picture?
No.
What, you sent it to her?
No. She sent it to me. The picture was, we're standing there she's dressed like a hooker. No offense.
The piano player sent it to you. How does Kelly get it?
It was in the mail.
If only we had a recording of this night.
She sent it in the mail to you.
Yeah, she sent.
So listen. You know how dumb and old I am. I thought she sent it by phone. But, we didn't.
This
do
may
that.
have predated that.
We didn't do that.
The phone I had
then.
weighed about 8 pounds.
Yeah.
I used to refer to it as the brick.
Yeah, I remember those phones, and they didn't receive any pictures either.
Yeah, and that would open another door of, I'm unfaithful to my wife over the years. I wasn't that night.
Well, you were. But
by flirting.
Yeah.
By flirting.
Flirting.
I get it, but all right.
And that put me down that road.
Right.
And I'll skip through a lot of stuff, but many of you will know that the pains I'm about to enter in. Unfaithful to my wife, opiate abuse, alcohol abuse, and the back was uncovered during that time. The back had L5S1 major problems: spondylolisthesis, spondylosis, degenerative disc disease, and the remedy for that they recommended was surgery. And I remember...
Oh, I thought it was a piano bar with a scantily clad piano
At this point,
player.
it's not getting to be fun anymore, though, right?
No,
Like, at this
it isn't.
point,
Now it's work. Now it is just work, trying to cover my lies, my behaviors. Kelly knew of the alcohol and the substance abuse, didn't know how to deal with it, and so it wasn't brought up very much. And that probably speaks to the culture that we were raised in religiously. I'm still pretending to be an active member of the LDS Church. And so they finally talked me into having that surgery in 2004. So I'm skipping quite a bit. And I remember going into that surgery with the fear of, what if it got worse? Because I'd had buddies had similar surgeries, and it didn't get better, it got worse.
Yeah.
The other fear I had was, well, what if it got better?
Mm-hmm.
Then what do I do? And I remember that night in the hospital, I did have that little clicker that you pushed as much as you needed to.
Yes.
And but I remember the pain I was experiencing was a different pain. It was the pain that somebody had just beat the crap out of my low back. It wasn't the pain that radiated down the left leg. And so as fate would have it, to this day, I don't have any back problem other than when I'm carrying Doc Sellers on the golf course.
On the golf course, yep.
But that's just because I'm out of shape.
Get your back ready. Get your back ready today too.
So at that point, I still have this emotional pain. Don't have the physical pain. I'm not on opiates. Still drinking a little alcohol where I can, but I find gambling,
Oh, awesome.
and I'm a good gambler.
So just to
so's
point out,
everybody else.
we're talking about cross addiction now, right? He's crossed several lanes. Okay. Welcome to the lane of gambling.
Hope he put his turn signal on when he did it.
And I'm spending lots of money because my problem is I'm a good gambler. It was Texas Hold'em, blackjack a little bit, but I love Texas Hold'em.
I'm a good gambler, says everybody everywhere.
Except when I got drunk. And they would give you all the alcohol you could drink at the casino, And I picked up a DUI I forgot in 2001, coming from Wendover, and I'm going through lots of money. And
You mean Wendover by way of Burley, Idaho?
no,
You weren't that drunk.
no, I wasn't that
Okay.
drunk.
Okay.
No.
When you say lots of money, can you put a figure on it?
Yeah,
But he doesn't want to because Kelly's going to listen.
no, Kelly knows. We're
Just made that amends.
yeah, we're good. We figure in that year it was somewhere between $70,000 and $80,000.
That you lost
Yeah.
gambling.
Yeah,
Oh, you are a good gambler.
yeah.
I don't make that in a year. I don't make that in probably 2 years.
Mikey Horton said yesterday when I went three putt, "You're good at three putting."
I think that was me.
Yeah. So at one time, these are Catalytic Events leading to the end, but I had taken some money from my son Chad. I think my memory is about $2,500 out of his account, and went to Wendover and lost it. And it was over a weekend. I had his debit card with his PIN number, and that was back in the day where all he could do over the weekend was watch it, $300 at a time disappear. Couldn't stop it. And I come home Sunday night. I pull in the garage. Kelly's at the entry into the house in the garage with her hands on her hip, which is a sign of, shoot. And I walked past her. I said, "Hey, I don't want to fight anymore. I don't want to fight about this. I'm just going to grab some clothes and go to my mom and dad's house." They were out of the country on a mission, and they live in North Salt Lake. And so she said to me, "This is Catalytic Event probably number one for change." She said, "Take it all.
Oh, wow.
I don't need you anymore." And I remember thinking, this is not what I want, but I didn't say that. I said, "That's fine. I didn't want to be here anyways." And so I left and went to mom and dad's.
Aggressive, he says.
Yeah. So I went to mom and dad's place. That was the worst place for a guy like me to be in the world, literally. The neighbor to the east in this North Salt Lake home was a guy named Robert Hales.
Robert
D.
D.
Hales.
Hales.
The neighbor to the west.
For those of you that are not LDS, that's a general authority, one of the big-time leaders of the church.
And the neighbor to the west, no fences between these houses, a guy named David Bednar.
Yeah.
And there, within a week, I'm introduced to the final substance that would just take me down. I'm introduced to crack cocaine.
Oh,
And I just remember within 6 months, probably 4 months after first starting cocaine, I'm not working now because I'm not hireable. I'm not dependable.
yeah.
And so I'm really not working, and I don't have much there. But the cocaine, I've lost everything now. I even sold a car that I had for dope, pawning stuff from my mom and dad's house, nice, expensive stuff. And within 4 to 6 months, I'm in jail for theft and forgery.
Okay, can you feel that switch? Like, this all starts out fun and games, right? I mean, because we've laughed a lot on this podcast about some stuff that you did and stuff that happened to you. It just turned really gray.
Yeah.
Like, this is how it happens. The early part of addiction sometimes can actually be fun. I'm not going to sugarcoat that, but this is where it always turns. And this doesn't start to, I can't find something to laugh about right now about this part of the story.
And I just want to chime in and say,
Turn black.
I like to think of it as like, I use this analogy. When you have an emotional, when you're in emotional turmoil, everybody says, substance abuse is the answer, and that's the problem. We've had guests that have said that. And I think of it as like a loan, okay? If I'm not wanting to pay something off or I'm needing some support, I go and I take out a loan. Well, what happens? That interest compounds, and eventually it catches up. And that's what's happening right now is that loan and all that fun and games eventually is caught up to you, and now that loan's pretty heavy.
Yeah.
Yep.
And at this point, we're into it 20+ years.
Yeah.
Of this running and gunning and
a lot of
lying and
interest.
cheating. Yeah, there's a lot of interest, and it's about to be paid. So I end up stealing $2,500 check from a fen settlement, partial settlement that my mom got. They were out of the country. It was in the mail, and so I just forged her name, paid the order off, and cashed it. And I left the pay stub out on the counter, and one of my siblings came to visit.
Oops.
And they saw the pay stub. And
You mean God left the pay stub out?
yeah, that's
on the
true.
counter.
Because I wouldn't wish what happened to me from that moment on to anybody, but I wouldn't trade it for the world. I'd spend the next 18 months in jail. And I was on a year sentence, but I had 2 courts, Salt Lake County and Davis County, that were after me. And so on a year sentence, I spent 18 months. And it was there that I had another catalytic event where I began to change. One of my major problems inside, Kelly and our communication style and our relationship was problematic to me. That was emotionally, I didn't know how to cope with it. But the other part was a lot of shame, come from the culture that I was raised in.
Huge.
And it wasn't, they weren't deliberately, leaders of that church or any church, I don't believe, deliberately put that on us. I don't believe they do. But I internalize it.
Sure.
And rather than go to this place of, hey, you made a mistake, why don't you look at correcting it, I am the mistake.
Right.
Right.
And
It's that
so
guilt versus shame.
yeah. And I was confused of the difference between religion and spirituality. I thought those were the same thing.
Yep.
And an experience I had in jail that I won't go into, but it was the greatest spiritual experience I've ever had in my life.
I want you to go into it.
Yeah.
I'm pissed. When I get to jail, I'm spiritually dead.
Broken.
Bankrupt, dead, broken, and angry. I'm angry at everybody. And the 2 that I'm most angry with, well, 3. My brother Scott, who wrote the letter to the judge that said, hey, we love our brother, but we don't know how to help him. You write that letter, the judge goes, I got this.
Yeah.
Bam.
Yeah.
Oh, well, you'll be our guest for a while. So I was angry at him, but I was angry at God, and I was angry at me. And, God, what the heck are you doing? This is just BS.
Yeah.
And
God doesn't know what he's doing.
Yeah. So here I am, and I meet up with a guy in there that's my age, and we started playing chess in the mornings. And he and I would talk a little bit about God and whatnot, but I didn't want to. One morning we're interrupted in our chess game. And if you ever been to jail, and I hope you haven't, mornings, I'm an old guy in jail because at that point I'm 47, 48-ish. And in the mornings it's quiet. After breakfast, tray pass, everybody else goes back to bed. But I'm not going to go back to bed. So Jeff and I would just play chess and quiet and visit. And one morning we're interrupted by our chess game by a guy named Jonathan, who I remember was from Honduras. And he said, you guys are always talking about this God and this Christ thing. What's that all about? I remember thinking, this is how spiritually bankrupt I was. I said, hey, dude, we're playing chess. Walk on.
Yeah.
So Carter says to him, hey, before you go, here's a book. Gives him this book. Says, why don't you read this book, and if you have any questions, come back. And I'm thinking, Carter, you're a genius. We'll never see this guy again. That's the Book of Mormon. We will never see this dude. I was wrong. The very next morning, this guy had questions. I'm butthurt again. Another jailhouse term. I am upset again. You're interrupting my chess game. And Carter says, well, you just come every morning and we'll teach you some stuff. Just pissed off. So we're going on, and I'm waiting to be transferred from that jail any moment to Davis County, where I have to do a year. That's why it was a year and a half. But I think God, looking back, had a plan. I need you to figure something out here before you can move forward.
Yeah.
So we're going to slow some things down. And so we start teaching him, and I start coming out of this fog and this bankruptcy and start remembering things I'd memorized 20 plus years before that on a mission. And I know I'm not that smart. And so I'm starting to soften up a little bit. And each night I would say, hey, probably won't see you guys tomorrow. They're going to roll me up, only to wake up to Groundhog Day for about 8 months. And so we're running out of things to teach him. And Jeff says, what do you want to teach him? And we talk, and somehow we come up with this idea of the atonement. And for those Christian folks, we all know what the atonement implies. And I'm thinking, I got this. I know everything there is to know about the atonement. So I grabbed what I had that night in my cell and prepared this dissertation on the atonement the next morning. And the next morning would change my life. Catalytic event number 2. I go into this, why we had what needed a savior and the atonement, and talked about the life of Christ, his birth, and the miracles that he performed. And it was good stuff. Talked about culminating with him being betrayed by his friend, and then going to court himself and being condemned and died on the cross. Thought it was good stuff. And I remember it was over, and this Jonathan leaned over and looked me in my eyes, and in this Honduran accent said, why? Why did he do that? And I remember thinking, you jackass, I just spent an hour telling you. That's when it happened. It was as if my grandfather was in that room, and he probably was. And he said to me in my mind, Christian, this question he asks you of why, you don't know the answer. You think you do, but you don't know the answer. And until you know the answer, life's going to be pretty tough for you. So I listened for a minute to what was spoken in my heart and in my mind, and I said to Jonathan, he did it because he loves me. He loves you, a liar, a cheat, and a thief. And if we would just look to change, all this would go away. I never saw Jonathan again. That night I was rolled up.
Wow.
I finished that sentence. Kelly begins to visit. We reconnect. 3 of the 4 kids reconnect. I get out of jail, go back home, and I quickly, expectations of a job, I relapse really fast on crack. I'm not taking pain pills, not drinking alcohol, but I quickly go to crack. And then Kelly says, I'm not doing this, and I'm homeless. And in late 2009, I'm homeless, and the only thing I have, I'm living down at the park. That's Pioneer Park.
Yeah, downtown Salt Lake City.
And trying to do what I can to scrounge up a few pennies and enough to get $20 worth of rock. And the only thing I had was, I wasn't divorced, so I was still on Kelly's health insurance. And late in 2009, I figured it's not working anymore. And I, for the first time, I'd been to treatment a couple of times, but for Kelly and for the kids and siblings and parents.
Everybody but you.
Yeah. For the first time in my life, I said, it ain't working. And I made the call and checked myself into treatment. I met Jason Webb, who's just a phenomenal counselor, but the biggest nerd you'll ever meet. And he helped me understand the difference between religion and spirituality. And to this day, I offend on occasion, not on purpose, but my LDS friends when I say the spirituality that I'm advocating for in the recovery process will not be found in a church building. You may go there to support it, but you will not find it there. You'll
so
find
powerful.
it in the quiet places, nature, looking in the eyes of a child or a grandchild, somewhere where the heavens can speak to you and say, Christian, I know who you are. I know the pain you're going through, and you matter to me. So I get that in treatment, get out of treatment after 83 days of residential. I go home, Kelly on a napkin we still has 4 deal breakers. You got to get a job. If you don't do that, you can't live here. You got to get your driver's license reinstated, which was appropriate because I'm on probation driving on a suspended driver's license. Let's see. You can't use. That's a given. But the fourth one just cracks me up. You got to go to church. And I remember going, oh, thank you, Jesus. If only I had done that and read my scriptures and prayed more, all this shit never would have happened.
Right.
That was, again, sarcasm.
Right.
And so day 6, after 83 days, I relapsed. And it was the worst relapse I ever had. It was 10 days I was gone. And everything I had was gone. I'd stolen more money. That night of that 10th day, the final catalytic event happened. The dope's gone. The phone, I already sold that, so I have no way of contacting anybody, or they contacted me. But I checked the landline. I called my cell phone from the landline I was at, and there was voicemails were full. And Jason Webb had left a couple. You know Jason Webb. And the first couple were, hey, I'm concerned about you. Call me. Crescendoed to the middle of the week of, hey, this is ridiculous. Call me. But the last message he left was the final piece I needed. This is the message he left. He said, Christian, it's Jason. Have I told you I love you lately? That gave me enough courage. There was no judgment in that. There was just unadulterated love. Gave me the courage to pick up the phone and call him. Tell him I'm not in a good place. Went back to treatment for 30 days and never looked back. That was February 4th, 2010. That's where I realized, my brain realized it didn't work. It never worked for me. And I made the commitment that come hell or high water, as things got tough, and they do, and they did, I'm not picking up. It's not an option anymore.
Right.
I will figure out a way to communicate with Kelly so that we can get by. I will understand that stress isn't going to kill me. It's just part of this gig that we call living. And quickly after that, Steps Recovery, one of your sponsor,
We love them.
offered me a job. I remember, Doc, you and I talked about this a couple of days ago. I remember that first year. I had never worked so hard. I was in the medical device arena. I was making $50,000 a month. And in that first year with Steps Recovery, I made 20.
He was making more than I made as a doctor. Holy mackerel.
Well, it's because we were charging you guys arms and legs to put those heart valves in. But I remember I worked for $24,000, and I've never worked so hard for so little and been so happy in my life.
Yeah.
That opened the door. I worked for Steps for some years, and my ego I still got an ego, and thought, well, I don't like the way you're doing it, Mike. And that was my ego.
Different owner than now, right?
Yeah. So and Ty and we got to know each other there, and I went and worked for another outfit, and finally decided I could do this better than all y'all's, and opened my own place called Inspire Addiction in 2015 with my 2 sons, and we loved it. And that was acquired 4 years later. And I still have the privilege. I work for a company called Stepstone Recover or Stepstone Connect, and they are in this space of outpatient telehealth, and we're great at first responders. I love those guys at Stepstone. I've been blessed. Let me tell you the blessings of recovery. I do use AA. That was kind of how the vehicle that got me to sobriety. I probably could go to more meetings, and I might offend some people. And those that know me will make fun of me. I don't have to. I believe that one can be recovered, and this is going to piss people off because when I say that, I don't mean to imply, hey, I can go drink like a gentleman now, and I can go smoke crack cocaine and then go back to my job. I have a healthy respect for the disease I have, but Bill W. speaks about it multiple times in the big book. We're a group of 100 men and women who have recovered from a seemingly hopeless state of whatever that was. So now my people are laughing at me. I love AA.
No, I love that, and I actually believe the same thing. Like we do recover, we can recover. It doesn't mean like you're saying that, we can jump back into the old ways, right?
Yeah.
But that's part of recovery is knowing that we can't.
Yeah. Some of the great blessings, the employment over the last 11 years in this industry I've loved. The best people on the planet are people in recovery.
Yeah.
and people seeking recovery. Our hearts are the kindest, most gentle people in the world, but when we're caught up in that addiction, we're the worst people in the world. We lie, we steal, we cheat, yet in our core, our hearts are the kindest people, almost to a T. I can't think of too many people in this recovery experience the last 11 years that were at the core dicks. At the core, they were kind-hearted people filled with pain. But some of my favorite blessings of recovery were that money I stole from my son, our second son, Chad. For the first year and a half, if I walked in recovery, for the first year and a half, if I walked into a room Chad was in, he walked out. And I remember probably 60 days into my recovery going to Kelly, what's his problem? I'm 60 days clean. He should just forgive me. And so the kids, they we're close. We love each other. Chad and Adam are my best golfing buddies. Yeah. We have trust. We communicate. Kelly and I celebrate 39 years. Our relationship is wonderful. It's not perfect. That's the other thing I believe in. This idea of being perfect, it's not going to happen in this life. I'm a big believer in progress. That's the big deal. Progress, not perfection. Today I'm perfect in my own imperfections. And I love recovery. I love helping people. This disease is not an individual disease. It's been a family disease. Our family is so much better. That brother that wrote the letter to the judge, Scott, my best friend on the planet. And I hated that guy. He's learned. And that's my story.
Thank you so much. Seriously, from the bottom of my heart, thank you for coming on and sharing your story. We really appreciate it. Yeah. Christian Smith, everybody, has been an amazing podcast. Such a powerful spiritual man. Join us next week for John Taylor with Hunts for the Brave. Thank you, guys. We'll see you in 7 days.
Thank you for joining us today on We Do Recover with Jared Miller.
Help us spread our message of hope. Like, comment, and share.
If you have any topics or ideas for future shows, please share that on our Facebook page.
That Facebook page is We Do Recover with Jared Miller. If you or a loved one needs help, please reach out to us. Again, thank you for listening.
Brought to you by Steps Recovery Center and the St. George Hilton Garden Inn.
This has been a production from a podcast studio.